an original MCM production.
As we get to the fun part, this is what we call our Changing of the Guard ceremony. Thank you, especially to our many guests, for joining us in our club's Changing of the Guard. The agenda's pretty quick, crisp. We're going to start our program sharing a few highlights of President Dan's wonderful year as our club president. That's going to be followed by a toast in our ceremonial gavel presentation. And then afterwards, President Dan's going to share some outgoing thoughts. And finally, last but not least, our incoming president, Nancy Sennett, will talk about her goals for the upcoming year. So with that, as I started thinking about Dan's year as our club president, three key words come to mind: leadership, inspiration, and service. In fact, leadership, inspiration, and service provide a fitting framework to review his presidency. Rotary clubs bring together leaders to exchange ideas and take action to make a difference in our community and around the world. First and foremost, we're a leadership organization. In other words, our club membership consists of more than 375 leaders. So think about it. That means President Dan had to be the leader of 375 fellow leaders, a daunting challenge to say the least. However, it's also very humbling. And I know that in the process, Dan, like many Rotary presidents before him, learned how to be that special kind of leader, a servant leader. While servant leadership's an ancient concept, today that term describes a leader who shares power, puts the needs of others first, and helps develop people as much as possible. In essence, he's a leader who exemplifies our Rotary model, service above self, in the very way that he serves as a leader. The bottom-up successes of a servant leader like Dan happen in 1,000 ways every week, every day throughout the year. Those who've had a chance to serve more closely with President Dan in the past year, from our board of directors to the chairs of our 22 committees, know very well the 1,000 ways that Dan has demonstrated his servant leadership. That achievement is certainly significant when you consider the long legacy of other great presidents who have led our club for more than 103 years. Historic leaders, like our club's first woman president, Sister Camille, pictured here with some of her predecessors in 1993. Clearly a servant leader in many other aspects of her life. Here is our past president, Rick Ludke, here up front, who went on to become district governor in 1991, and 25 years later still serves our club and our district in so many ways. Thank you, Rick. Our other great claim to fame is Cliff Randall, who later became president of Rotary International's entire worldwide organization in 1958 to 1959. So when you reflect on the history and the legacy of our club's leadership, being president of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee is a big deal. Here's Dan surrounded by some of his club's past presidents, many who are with us here today at one of the head tables. Each president is reminded of his club's legacy via an invitation during those first couple months in office to attend a formal past president's dinner. That's where these photos were taken by Bob Haig, who at age 104 has been a member of our club for more than 60 plus years. The event even includes a special initiation activity that President Dan surpassed with a big smash. Of course, past presidents are sworn to secrecy, so Nancy, I can't give out the secrets of the fun. This brings me though to my second keyword for President Dan, inspiration. You may have been wondering, so Bernadette, what's with the tux? Well, as you know, Dapper Dan has raised the bar during his year as one of our more stylish presidents, especially donning his classic bow ties from time to time, kind of following in Frankie's footsteps. Thus, I wanted you to know, Dan, that you personally inspired me to upgrade my attire for this, setting the stage for next year. And you've inspired me in another way. For all my life, I've been kind of a clip-on tie kind of guy. So after watching YouTube, a 2-minute YouTube, I'll have you know, 10 times, this is my first real bow tie, Dan. So thank you for inspiring me. Anyway, as Sue mentioned to me that you don't have a Rotary bow tie yet, so as my personal thank you for inspiring me, I've bought you one of these Rotary bow ties for your collection as well. So, yep. I'll add that to your pile of things we're going to have for you up here. In one of the many thousand ways that Dan's promoted our Rotary Club this past year, he's inspired some of those audiences during weekly Live at the Lakefront concerts last summer with wonderful welcome speeches describing the ways that our club helps to connect our community. Last October, as many of you know, Dan also inspired leaders from more than 50 of the biggest clubs in America at the large club conference that we organized. He served as that event's distinguished MC, as well as he and Sue hosted attendees at his home along with the Berries and the Dickinsons, which became one of the more memorable highlights of that major event. On the lower left corner as well, on a very cold day, as you may remember, in November, Dan, you represented our club well at the commissioning of the USS Milwaukee. And as I mentioned, there's 1,000 ways that President Dan inspired our members to connect with each other, with our community, as well as with the world. Since a picture's worth 1,000 words, here's a short 3-minute video highlighting some of those 1,000 ways that you've been connecting, including some recent footage from Johnson's Park. So if we could play the video.
Me hicieron
Special thanks to our sponsors who helped put that together pro bono and also helped with all of our other videography during the years. So thank you for that. So President Dan certainly excelled as well in emceeing the 50-plus weekly programs, as well as the social events that we have. But one memorable moment for me was a candid comment by Johnson Controls Chairman and CEO Alex Monaroli during the Q&A session in January when he was up here this year. He started talking at the end of his speech about the importance of addressing the growing economic and social divides in our city. And then he reflected on his own upbringing in the segregated South and how his life perspectives changed over the years because he, as an executive, had the opportunity to go around the world and break bread with people from almost all countries. Molinaroli learned through those global experiences that they're all good people in the world, as he said. And he felt that that is a way to really build global understanding. Well, as Rotarians know, that's really the secret to success that Paul Harris first talked about at the 1928 Rotary Conference in Tokyo, saying the best way to cultivate international understanding is through business and social intercourse, which in these times, as I may reflect, as we kind of talk about building walls and go into protectionist and nationalist moods around the world, that idea that Rotarians bring to the world was something that I tried to spawn through our Global Milwaukee Committee. How do we get outside of our club and really network with Rotarians around the world? So as part of my not only toast to you, Dan, but kind of my challenge to you, knowing that you and your son, Connor, if any of you have seen Dan on Facebook or Facebook friends with him, you probably recognize that picture on the left, which is his profile picture. As Dan states in his personal note of his company bio, while I don't claim to be a very good sailor, I do enjoy sailing our Hobby 16 on Lake Michigan, as well as sailing with my son Connor whenever I can. And as you heard, since Connor's in San Francisco, Dan's also had a chance to sail with him in the Bay Area. Thus, I thought, kind of connecting those two thoughts of how our leaders can help to make the world a small place and globalize, that it would be only fitting that I sign up President Dan as the newest member of the International Yachting Fellowship of Rotarians. So with that, Dan, you get this wonderful blue and gold burgee to fly from your Hobby 16, as well as, more importantly, your membership opens the door to connecting with 3,300 like-minded sailing-loving Rotarians around the world who are in 110 fleets. There's one in Chicago that I signed you up for. That's our closest fleet in the Great Lakes, unfortunately. I'm going to get these guys to create a Milwaukee fleet yet. We've got plenty of sailors who can do that. But this is your International Yachting Fellowship banner from the Chicago fleet for now, as well as here's their 100-page, just June issue of their magazine. Color magazine, 100 pages, every 4 times a year of all the different fun things for you to look at that these Rotarians are doing around the world. As Alan Sells, one of our legendary members, said when he was over as a member in the Mediterranean, he got on a $2 million sailboat just cruising around the Mediterranean with a fellow Rotarian for free. So if you and Sue want to have some fun, guys, take advantage of your membership. In addition to that, I'd like to kind of close here this overview of Dan's year, as well as this challenge for him in the years ahead, by asking everyone to please stand now and join me in drinking a toast to President Dan. President Dan, this year's Rotary theme, Be a Gift to the World, represents all the ways that you give to your family, to your law practice, to your fellow Rotarians, and to the others in the world. Thank you for being that humble servant an inspirational leader, as well as of great service to our club as our president for the past year. Cheers, Dan. So with that, Dan, if you'd like to come up here, we have one other honor. Each meeting, as you heard me, is opened with the ringing of our bell. So one of our traditions is to give you, Dan, your gavel that's been used to ring the bell for the past 50-plus clubs. So in addition to that, here is your past president's pin. So you can exchange that for the president's pin for a past president's pin. So with that, I'll let you share a few words and thoughts with our club.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much, John. I have to say, that is so much nicer than a eulogy, isn't it? I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. I was a little concerned. I want to thank Tom Bentley for sitting down and not, he threatened me beforehand with what he might say, so I'd like to be particularly appreciative of that. And I noticed in looking at the pictures of the past presidents, there is Chris Jekyll sitting there doing something on his iPad or something, iPhone, and he still is the youngest Rotary president ever for our club. I got it. Well, one of the two of you for sure, but anyway. So I want to say something that I've had to say 50 or so times this year. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, where leaders make a difference. We've said that for quite a bit. Our meetings always start with that phrase. And last June, as your incoming president, I asked the question, how do we make a difference? A year later, I'm happy to report that the Rotary Club of Milwaukee continues to make a significant difference, not just in Milwaukee, but globally. Take a look at what we've done in the last year. You've seen some great images of a number of things that we've done. But what would our summers be without the great bands and live at the lakefront, at the Rotary Amphitheater? In the fall, we had the Large Club Conference for the first time here in Milwaukee, which brought the largest Rotary clubs from across the U.S. and Canada to Milwaukee. Many, I can tell you, said they'd never been to Milwaukee before. This was a chance that we had to showcase our club and our city, and we definitely succeeded. But we succeeded because we had a large group of committed Rotary members and our hardworking staff. Kudos to both Mary and Liz for pulling off such a wonderful event. And at the same time, we hosted a group from the Ukraine for an extended visit. I would say that that demonstrates our club's ability to multitask. Later in the year, club members traveled to Bangladesh as part of a team to provide cleft palate surgery. And then another group of members, except the Icebisters, who managed to go on both trips, I got to comment on that, traveled to Guatemala to visit and work on local bridge and school projects supported by our club. Earlier this month, we had the Rotary Golf Classic, a great event for fellowship and fun, which also supports our Rotary Scholars. As a result, this year, our Rotary Scholarship Committee is able to provide financial support and mentoring for 24 Milwaukee students. It's a tremendous accomplishment. And anybody that has met any of those students knows that we are really making a difference in their lives. Just last week, we celebrated the rejuvenated Johnson's Park. It was a long-term commitment by our club that turned a wasteland into a park in urban Milwaukee. On top of all this, our club continues its usual involvement in Oliver Wendell Holmes School, Brown Street Academy, as well as 2 book distributions at 12 MPS schools. We had the Done in the Day Committee provide a number of activities for club members throughout the course of the year, which included the annual bell ringing for the Salvation Army and an opportunity to help clean up the Milwaukee River. None of this would have happened without the dedicated commitment of everybody in this club. Nothing has impressed me more than the willingness of our members to make a real difference. So many members were involved in so many different things that we needed a rather large and a bit confusing chart simply to diagram everything that was going on. You'll all remember the one with all those, I call them Easter eggs all over it. It took a big piece of paper to cover everything that we do as a club. So our club offers all of our members a meaningful way to participate in our community. The theme from Rotary International President Ravi's year was, as was mentioned before, is that we as Rotary members should be a gift to the world. While we can always do better, while we can always aspire to do more, I believe that our club has lived up to that theme in this past year, and we will do it again in the coming years. So in closing, I would like to thank all the board members, the committee chairs, and the members of the club that made all this possible. A heartfelt thanks to Mary, Liz, and Rita, who made the challenging projects that we did look easy. I also have to thank my darling wife, my daughter, my family that made this year possible for me. And looking forward, I know that President Nancy will do a great job, and we wish her the very best. So lastly, thank all of you for making this just a wonderful year for the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I said, it's so much better than a eulogy. And now, I think it's my duty to call President Nancy to the stage. And what I get to give you is your President's pin. And my very best to you.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'll get my stuff out of the way.
Your step out of the way. This is
Okay,
underneath
there we go. All right.
So we built a podium at Foley and Lardner several years ago, and they couldn't get it short enough, so they built a step for me. We'll have to talk about that. In this election year, I begin with the formal statement: the state of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee is strong. In fact, it is healthy and growing, focused on the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Our 375 members are engaged and truly embrace our purpose: leaders making a difference. In anticipation of assuming the role of president, I attended various Rotary international, national, regional, and zone conferences this past year. Upon introducing myself, simply by saying I'm the president-elect of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, I was uniformly greeted with a sense of awe. Our club, its many projects, its activities, and especially its impact are well known. Often those around me volunteered that the Rotary Club of Milwaukee should be used as a model for all clubs. Wow, I thought, this club really is something special. Nearly 20 years ago, I joined this special club, and like many, I had only limited knowledge of the spectacular history of the club and the vast array of its activities. As we all know, however, engaged participation often changes one's view. And from participation on a committee or two, attendance at a Thai Rotarian event, or attendance at a lakefront music festival, I now have seen this club from many, but still not all, of its angles. But I too am in awe. We have engaged leaders, officers, board members, committee chairs, many of whom make significant time each and every week for the activities of this club. We have extraordinary committees, nearly 25 of them if we count. Several focus on the operations and on the growth of the club. A second group focuses on our local community, and 6 of them focus on our global community. There is a place for you in this special club. And if that is not enough of a menu, this year we will again engage the club in a special process of selecting our next big project. With Johnson's Park and the Rotary Centennial Arboretum, we scored true wins that again distinguished our club in the greater Milwaukee community. We'll be looking for your ideas submitted through your committees or individually for a project that will challenge us and provide another opportunity to highlight Rotary. I've heard it said that our club works best when we all have a common project to unite us. This year will be the start of such a project. I thank you, Dan, for your leadership. I thank each and every one of you for your leadership, your active participation, and your inspired contributions. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to lead this special club for the coming year, and I pledge to work to keep and grow the strength of this club. Thank you.
An MCM production.